All right, and we are back here at MJ BizCon 2024 at the Meta Unshackled Manufacturers Pavilion. This is your host, Max Uhas. I got Ryan Cook with me. I got Katie Craven, and I'm terrible with last names.
Kim Eastman.
Kim, there you go. Kim Eastman.
There you go.
And you guys all know who Kim Eastman is.
I do. I'm excited to be here with you, Kim.
Absolutely. Have you met before?
No.
Okay, cool. This is great. We're bringing people together for the first time. This episode, we're going to be talking about compliance, basically how to run a compliant business, how to not get fined for a bunch of dumb stuff for non-compliant issues. And I'm just a digital marketer here, so I'm actually going to pass this off to Kim. How do people run a better compliant business? And what to avoid? And they want you to hold the mic not towards the speakers.
Okay, so I'm going to turn this way.
Yeah, there you go.
Thanks for the handoff, Kim Eastman, CFE Consulting Group. A lot of former operations under my belt. So started in Colorado, from the ground up 12 years ago.
Right.
So, you learn a lot of lessons along the way. Kind of going into the most recent, which was operating, an MSO in a lot of different states where there's a lot of different regulations.
Right.
Some were full CGMP facilities. Others, they're just trying to figure it out, right? And, do the bare minimum.
And writing the rules along the way, too, right?
Pretty much, right? Or lobbying for rule changes when you don't like them, right? It's a tough question. But, a lot of times there's a gray area, right? It's like you have to do what's necessary to stay compliant, but you don't want to put yourself out of business,
True.
Right? So there's always kind of that fine balance, right? But it starts with, obviously like facility design. That's really important. SOPs, right? Standardized process. All of that is critical just to allowing your manufacturing operation to continue and be successful without daily micromanaging of people, right?
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. And I think to talk about SOPs, here we go.
Hi, Katie Craven's Build My SOP. So, yeah, couldn't
ask for a better lead into that.
Yeah, thank you so much. It really identifies every single thing within someone's facility. So I always tell an owner and operator that if you're having a problem, identify where it's at. Whatever it is in a process. So if it's within work culture, there's obviously a problem within communication or, something else going on there. But it can usually be identified within that process, and then you can fix it. And then you can re-educate your team on how we do it. And everybody has to sign that they understand that process. And then we can hold each other accountable. So,
Versus that you didn't tell me that. Or I didn't know.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, I thought it was a different thing.
Yes.
We're not using.
Well, and also too, though, like me as a manager, I have a lot going on that I'm multitasking.
Right.
And so, like, I got maybe I did misunderstand it. Maybe I did something wrong too. You know what I mean? So documentation is good for both sides for everybody.
But what about how we used to do it at my old company?
Probably the best way. I want to hear more.
Yeah, I would love to as well.
Well, in the old company that I used to work for, this is how we did it, and
I've never heard that before.
I'm sure you've never heard. So I feel like this is why having SOPs, having a compliance checklist in general is a great idea for any business. You know what I mean? Like, but especially a highly regulated cannabis business in general, because otherwise it's going to be.
Well, I mean, what's a container, right? Like I've walked into places where they're like, "Well, fill the container halfway," and I'm like, "Okay." I have both of the manufacturers sitting there with me. Can you show me which container you use? Can you show me? And they're two different containers. I'm like, well, here's why you're losing more of this product. Here's why this sucks. Here's why you can't. That's why you lost $500,000.
Or
right
this
there.
container was dirty, so I just used that one because I didn't want to clean it. It doesn't matter. Yeah, agree.
Ryan, what do you got?
Well, we've taken this one all over the place already. Yeah. So, I think I'll try to bring it back to the title here in regard to building these safe and compliance centers and what we've been doing, because I've had an opportunity to be a part of this industry for quite some time now, 25 years in the legal cannabis market, and obviously that has transitioned us through amazing amounts of compliance changes and regulatory implementations. And obviously, I think for anyone who's in this industry, you need to be a part of it.
Yeah.
If you're not a part of it, it will run over you very quickly. And so, we worked with these teams, for quite some time on really developing that, working with the local regulatory agencies and trying to explain what the challenges are that what operators deal with, as opposed to what regulators think we're dealing with. And so, we've spent a lot of time in developing these, but I think it's one of the biggest issues is learning from your mistakes, right? And I think for years and years, individuals have been. We've been learning as we go, developing facilities, challenging ourselves, creating solutions for whatever issues were out there. And at the end of the day, it's helped, but it's also, it continues to confirm that we still have a long way to go, and that changes are going to come all the time.
I feel like we just started, to be honest. I feel like the industry is just now ready for this conversation.
Right.
I feel like I'm just now allowed to use the word compliance when I'm talking to people.
And it's not
Yeah, and they're not,
word.
and they don't turn they don't hiss at me.
Right, because it's not the fun conversation. It's like quality, equally,
Yeah.
People aren't into that. I think one of the biggest challenges here, because I know.
Sorry,
Here we
this
go.
is hard.
No, I know. There should be 4 mics, but
I think one of the biggest challenges in the industry is that you always want your teams innovating, right? You always want them to find better ways to do something faster. How can we cut the step? How can we make it, obviously like improve sanitation? But how do you get your documentation and everything updated in as quickly and as fast as changes changes you want to happen in real time, right?
and implement them. Yeah.
And you have to have
Yeah.
systems, and if you guys are on paper, you're not going to make it because it takes too long. You have to choose a system that's right for you. I have a great one to recommend.
Please,
go ahead.
Plug away.
But make sure it's the right system for your team, though. But it has to be something that's digital, that's easy and quick. I like to sit down with my team once a month, and once a quarter at the least.
Right.
And I like to sit through with the team because we like to develop everything per category. And so whoever's involved in that category that we're reviewing that day in our monthly review comes and sit down at the table. We read through every SOP. Everyone agrees that we're still doing it this way. It also gives those introverts an opportunity to maybe contribute something that might be really beneficial. Mm-hmm. It gives people an opportunity that maybe don't get along, or maybe you have a manager that's not giving somebody a voice. It gives the team an opportunity because culture is really important. We have 40% turnover rate.
It is.
So once we lay it all down, and then like you said, everything is evolving and changing. So you have to talk to your team about it, and no one can be like, well, that's how we used to do it. Well, we do it this way now.
Right.
Right. Well, how do you prevent people too from coming in? You get the new guy, a lot of turnover, right?
Yeah.
Oh, this guy's coming from next door, and he's on the he's on the floor. He's going to make quick changes. He's like, well, we did it this way. This is the way that we're going.
This is the way I know.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you're saying that you feel like we're ready to be able to start having this conversation. Obviously, the industry's been going for some time here. We're looking a lot at operational excellence programs from the standpoint of quality compliance and EHS, right? And I think on the QMS side, that if you don't have, as you guys are talking about documentation, it's a controlled process, right? And I think that the quality management systems are really what I think is lacking. I think most companies are trying to figure out how to make it to next month and not necessarily considering what that operational excellence program is really going to do for them.
So I think there's a difference between Sorry.
I'm going to counteract whatever she says. So give me the mic now.
I think a lot of QMS systems, and so for us, we're really focused on employee, process and employee, right? And so QMS is more about the quality management of the product. And so, to me, there's two different systems. There's quality of the product, and then there's how the team and the process is actually flowing.
Agree, but it's really hard to separate the two.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to make a safe product and it's going to be compliant, then it has to be reproducible, right? You have to be able to trust that the guy that is hired tomorrow that's never done this before, worked at Ace Hardware and just showed up, is going to be able to execute the same task. And that's the ultimate goal, is to create a safe product and a compliant product and make our consumers actually trust us, right?
Sure.
When you buy any product, it's going to be safe. You don't have to worry about it. I don't feel like our consumers have that ability right now, right?
To trust product or to trust the quality of the product going
and
through.
reproduce, that you're going to get the same quality product
the
every time.
homogenization.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I think it's all one and the same, but they're big projects for any company to take on, right? You're going to have to hire,
Truth.
quality professionals. You have to take the time to write and review SOPs,
Well, especially if you're doing a big shift, because there's a lot of ego within facilities. There's all these different relationships and employees that we don't even know about a lot of the employee relationships that go on as managers.
We're the day one people.
Right. So, but having somebody else come in with a different face who has a professional shirt on with a different whole other, affiliation with the company itself, coming in and doing that shift and assisting is really important because
I would say like a badge that says auditor, right?
Yeah.
That'll make them.
No, but it's important because now I don't have Mr. Seniority guy telling me, or I don't have somebody who I have seniority over telling me, or all those weird things that go on
100%.
within places. So I couldn't agree more.
Here, so how does when it comes to like processing and manufacturing and supplying products to retailers, like obviously there's the whole like we're cultivating, we're processing, we're getting everything, but then how does the compliance aspect and replication of compliance fall into branding, packaging, even because you worked with MSOs on a state by state level to make sure, for one, that the product quality is there, but also that the packaging is done the right way, and to make sure that everybody else is being, you know what I mean? Because like each state has its own little rules, you know what I mean? Each state has its own little nuances. In some states, each little county has a different thing than the other areas. There's parts of Colorado
and
where
every state there's municipal
there's like weird
changes.
municipality quirks, like even whether it comes to taxes or it comes to Colorado, for example, like Colorado Springs is medical only, you know what I mean? But there's other places to where
California, they made it impossible for counties to work next to each other. I mean, it's complicated.
Well, I mean, I guess that's what I mean. Well, or going back to, I mean, I think that's why I'm talking about a QMS program, right? I mean, master manufacturing records, batch records. I mean, this is creating consistency throughout that entire production process in packaging, in labeling, I mean, the quality management system is much more involved than is the product good?
It follows you the entire way. It's supposed to follow you for the when you take it into your facility to when it exits.
But I think through continued, focus on a quality management system, I think these operations will ultimately be able to create a more consistent product, something that the consumer can be, more appreciative of.
And across sites, across states, right? I mean, I think if you have brands that traverse multiple states, you want to expect the same product like you would with any other CPG product, right? And that's where that matters, right? You're going to use the same ingredients, same batch record. You're going to go through the same quality checks, on those incoming raw materials. Like you go through that process, and then you can guarantee consistency
to build that trust as well.
Exactly.
One of my favorite brands, I got the same exact product both in Kansas City and in Eugene, Oregon.
That's amazing.
And I was so excited because I loved them so much in Kansas City.
Yes.
And I knew they were an Oregon-based company, and I was like, and then the packaging was the same, and it's very it makes me feel girly, and not a lot of things do. So I love that stuff.
No, when you have that quality control across each thing, I like to support local coffee shops, but there is a bonus to going to Starbucks. You know what you're going to get, no matter where you go across the country.
Yeah.
And it's not, well, we don't do that here. What was that? The McDonald's movie where did you see the documentary?
No, but I was just talking about it with someone yesterday.
It was ridiculous. Like the whole Michael Keaton thing where he's like, we don't sell fried chicken. Get this off your menu. You know what I mean? He's like, look, we want to keep a uniform product across everywhere, every location, the same quality. So that way, if it's your neighborhood one or you go fly somewhere across the country.
But McDonald's does have green chili in New Mexico.
But truth. But I mean, that's an adaptation to New Mexico. But you know what I mean? But they're mean menu.
But to the point of having little changes in every single place, like they have little things like that in other areas throughout the country that are specific and unique to that culture, to that area.
But the core product is still the core product.
Exactly.
And then you can be like, we'll add a little local pizzazz to this.
Exactly. Right. And that's kind of how the retail product is.
Yeah. I mean, the challenge too with that is that you can't create one SOP and then just roll it out to 10 states.
Yep.
Right.
Now you have to write it 10 times.
Right.
And you have to change cannabis to marijuana and medical it is kind of ridiculous what the hoops you have to jump through in order to have a compliant system like that
Yeah.
across more than one state. Right?
We're able to duplicate SOPs. So if you set up a retail store, you can duplicate it into another retail store, and then you can set it up for that state and that unique. We call it a municipal review, like a regulatory municipal review. So it can be pretty easy. Yeah. No thanks.
That's why we shorten it.
Try.
Here, I'll pass it. So
It is a challenge. I mean, I think we've created, kind of a program for this as well. But I think in developing those SOPs over time, I mean, you are going to have local challenge or local modifications, yes. But I still think it's really important to be able to have something that is a more global type SOP.
You have to have a base
that oversees, oversees the entire program.
You have to have your dedicated base.
You have the foundation, and then you can build on from the foundation.
Little things that are changing within these facilities are going to be things, and you would know like doors opening in different places, or like words like cannabis and marijuana, or you can go 1 ounce or 2 ounce. Like that's going to be changes like that are identified. If you do a really good job agreeing on your base SOP for everything.
yeah,
There you go.
I think there we go. I'm just gonna take it.
I gave up on it.
I think one of the challenges too, coming from an MSO perspective, is you're not building all these facilities from the ground up. You're not selecting all the same equipment. Nothing is standardized, right? So then you're expected to make the exact same product with different equipment and different people in a different, it's really challenging, right?
Yeah.
To try to get the same result without going in and putting a bunch of capital in to throw out very usable equipment to then replace it with something that's standardized, right?
Yeah.
So that's just a whole nother challenge that faces, these companies.
Because then you have new recipes because, maybe that equipment calls for something else, like little tiny changes that might affect the
this
entire
one has a dial
category.
to adjust temperature, and this one's digital. And
Exactly.
it's
And it gets that granular, doesn't it?
it sure does.
Yeah.
It does.
You have to walk through. Literally, we follow people through when the product comes in the door, and then we're like, and then what do you do? And they'll stop or they'll touch it, and I'm like, okay, and then what? And they're like, oh, it's like this. It's like this.
Have you ever thought about putting like just a camera on their forehead and be like, just go by your time?
Yeah, that would save me a lot
and
of
then
time.
send me the video.
Well, those
and I'll-
glasses
That's
glasses
good.
that record what you do now.
Yeah.
You can
But I get motion sickness really bad. I feel like that'd be like a
just watching the whole view of somebody
which
else.
movie? What was that one?
Which
We'll just get the 3D goggles so you're really there.
That is the worst.
I throw up in 3D.
I do too. So you're like me.
But because this is moving in a good direction, I figure I will ask you guys. I'm curious because when we do talk about building safe and compliant centers, like what have been for you guys? What have been the challenges that you've encountered in regard to infrastructure, modifications, that you guys have overcome, right? I mean, I think that's a big thing for a lot of individuals out here that are creating these centers and building out the facilities, and now learn about these regulatory, issues that came up years ago, and how I think about one specifically in regard to, the challenges we've had around airborne particles and filtration, and what OSHA is looking at right now, and how they're going through that process. And so I'm just curious what you guys have experienced.
Well, they both looked at me, so I'm going to answer. I
go
think
right ahead.
infrastructure, right? You come into a building, there's walls, right? And those walls, they're not just going to come down. But, I think process flow is a huge challenge. Cleanable surfaces, right? It's very hard to adjust, existing facilities. But yeah, I mean, it's possible, 100%, but it just takes money,
Sure.
Well, yeah, and like she said, now with OSHA coming in, right? You also have to know that just because you did it yesterday doesn't mean tomorrow is going to be the same experience for you. Something might change that.
Yep.
And so coming in with the baseline of all the surfaces clean, all of those things are really important. And then you need to identify your safety positions.
Sure.
There are positions in which if you are driving a forklift or you are operating a vehicle or something like that, no, dude, sorry, you don't get to be part of the consumption. Mm-hmm. That's not part of your job. And if you're doing something really big and it could affect your whole business. If you're a small mom and pop operator, you could lose it.
That's why you need an EHS professional in these
This is why I hire
facilities.
a professional.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hire
we've been
professionals,
getting
people.
we've been getting the message to wrap this up. So how does everybody get in touch with each of you?
You can look at my LinkedIn page, Ryan Cook. I'm happy to get back in touch with you guys. If anybody has any questions or follow up, I'm definitely here.
With more questions?
Yeah.
You could reach me at cfeconsultinggroup.com. Also, Greenflow Systems for air filtration systems. Obviously on LinkedIn, Kim Eastman.
I love Greenflow.
Thank you. Like, subscribe, follow.
All that good stuff.
I don't know what any of that means, but we're going to figure it out after the show.
Somebody else does. Don't worry.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Katie, the SOP lady, with Katie. Wait. Let me start that over.
Okay.
With buildmysop.com. So yeah, you can look me up on Instagram, Katie the SOP lady, or just buildmysop.com.
Yep.
Super easy to find.
Yes.
And this has been your host, Max Uhas with Dope SEO. And I want to thank everyone here for jumping on this. I feel like we could probably go on for like an hour and a half on this.
I know.
And it would be a masterclass that we could easily charge money for. So
Yes.
But if
Let's
you've been
do it
watching
somewhere we
this,
can smoke.
if you've been watching this, you already know who the professionals are you need to contact. And this has been another episode of Made Unshackled here at the Manufacturers Pavilion at MJ BizCon in 2024.
Thanks, guys.
We're out.
All right.